guys, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to be highlighting my best friend in the entire world's hair. We're going to be doing highlights and baby lights on her while keeping some of her natural base color for contrast. I'll be sharing with you guys today the entire process on how to get this beautiful platinum blonde. I'll also be sharing with you guys my formula as well. So let's get started with the first step in this process, our haircut. As you can tell, I'm extremely short and Michelle is as tall as a supermodel, so she's trying to adjust to find the right height for me. So right now, I'm just going in to cut off those uneven ends for Michelle, trim her up so that she's nice and fresh and her ends are super clean, and then we're gonna go in and finish this haircut at the end of the highlighting process. So for Michelle's highlights today, we're going to be doing half a head, or as I like to call it, the modified version, because technically it is half a head, but I also like to put some highlights around her neckline just because for her job, she's always wearing her hair up or in a ponytail or in a bun, so we like that back to be nice and bright for her. So I parted diagonal sections and I'm going to be working my way from the top of the section down to the nape of the neck. Now the reason I choose to do this is because I don't like working the opposite way from bottom up. I find that when I do that technique, the little frizzies and flyaway hairs tend to get in my way when I'm putting the hair in a foil. So it kind of just works better for me to work from the top of the section down to the nape of the neck. I just personally find that I'm able to get cleaner, more precise sections doing it this way. As you can see, I'm keeping my slices around Michelle's hairline very thin. I'm also making sure to keep with that diagonal parting as well. Once I do get my slice, I'm going back in and weaving through for more of a natural blend on Michelle's hairline. We like to keep Michelle's highlights very natural looking, and by using a combination of baby lights and highlights, we're able to achieve that look perfectly. So the nape area tends to pull a lot of heat naturally, which is great for the foils. It helps with the processing and really gets your best blonde. However, you do have to be careful not to fold your foils too tightly in areas like this. When you fold them too many times, it leads to the foil expanding and the bleach having nowhere to spill out, so it winds up spilling out toward the top of the foil, which leads to bleeding. So now, as you can see, I'm only folding twice and I'm keeping any pressing on the foil to a minimum. This will ensure that the bleach doesn't expand and spill out the top, and that should avoid your bleach from bleeding in the area. So as you guys can see, I'm moving on to my next section on the side of Michelle's head. And again, I'm going to be starting at the top of my diagonally parted section, working my way down. And again, as we get closer to the hairline, we want to keep those sections nice and thin to prevent any kind of harsh lines. Now, Michelle is one of my very best friends and one of my favorite clients as well. I may be a little bit biased by saying that, but she just has the most perfect base level. It's a beautiful natural level 7. So when we are lightening her, it pulls to the most gorgeous pale blonde. This makes Michelle the perfect candidate to be a platinum blonde. So Michelle does like to have a little bit of contrast in her hair, so rather than doing a double process on her or a bleach and tone, she's just a better candidate to do highlights and baby lights in order to keep her look more on the natural side. Now, if you're curious to see what a double process blonde looks like or a bleach and tone, I do have a video up. It's my Kylie Jenner blonde hair tutorial where we run through the entire process and I bleach my hair in front of you guys. I'll be sure to link that video in the description box below in case anybody is interested in watching. So now that we're done highlighting the sides of Michelle's hairline, we're going to move on to the crown. As I had mentioned earlier, Michelle's natural base color is absolutely perfect. So what I like to do is feather in some blended highlights in the back of her crown and keep a lot of her natural base back there. By blending the highlights at the crown, you're going to have a lot of contrast, which is going to blend beautifully between the very bright platinum color and then her natural 7 level base. So it is an absolute treat to be able to do Michelle's hair. It's just so nice to be able to catch up with her on more of a regular basis, and this gives us an excuse to do so. It's not always easy with distance and life and work and all the external things that come into play, but you have to make time to see your friends. That's super important. I had the pleasure of meeting Michelle back in college, and when I tell you she is literally my soul sister, it's just so amazing when you meet a friend in life that you're able to connect with on so many different levels and you have so many similar interests with. Just to have a friend who really just refreshes your soul after you see them, I think that's extremely rare and something to be valued. I think she may have been my sister separated at birth, but she's an absolute angel. And she's so thankful every time I do her hair, so that makes it even more worth it for me. So now I'm continuing on the top of Michelle's head, and as I work my way from the back to the front, I'm keeping the highlights very, very thin and weaving smaller pieces because I like the contrast to be toward the back of her head, and then once we get closer to the front of her hairline, we really like to brighten that up a ton. And just because Michelle does like the front to be very blonde doesn't mean that we're not going to go in and add a low light here or there. I like to alternate. About every 2 or 3 foils, I'll add a small, thin low light in between so that we keep the contrast that Michelle's ultimately looking for. Now, when it comes to the formula for the lowlights that I use on all of my very bright platinum blondes, it's a very specific science to coming up with the perfect low light. I personally don't like to keep my lowlights any darker than a level 7 because in my opinion it makes the hair look a bit muddy and grayish when we really want to avoid any unwanted tones that cause the hair to look less platinum and more gray. Now, my go-to formula for adding lowlights is usually a 7NA or an 8NA. Most of the time, if my client is as light as Michelle, I actually wind up mixing a 7NA and an 8NA together. The reason behind this is because it gives me a color that's not too dark, it's not too light, and the tone is perfect because it's not too warm and it's not too cool. If you deposit something that's too cool and too ashy, you're gonna wind up with blue hair. Don't get me wrong, blue hair is absolutely amazing. I hope to have it one day, but it's not the look that we are going for with platinum blonde. I also want to avoid anything that deposits with too much of a warm orange, brassy tone to it as well. So for me, mixing the two gives me the most perfect low lighting color. And as I continue to make my way toward the front of Michelle's hairline, you'll notice that my weaves are becoming bigger. So I'm weaving less hair out in an effort to keep her highlights brighter. There's going to be more blonde surface area covered in these foils because we want to keep it super bright. And as we add those last few foils towards Michelle's hairline, I'm just going to be very careful going in, making sure not to overlap any bleach. Michelle had some previous breakage that's growing out beautifully, and we want to make sure to maintain the integrity of that hair. So now that we are done foiling for Michelle's half head of highlights and baby lights, we're going to go ahead and let that process. So it's time to check and see if we're all cooked yet. And as you can see, there's still some of that unwanted orange brassy tone, which means Michelle is not done processing yet. We had waited a couple more minutes and went in, and you can see we have that beautiful pale blonde we are looking for. So she is all ready. And I don't know about you guys, but this is my absolute favorite part of the process. Removing the foils is just so satisfying to me to watch. So we're gonna go ahead and get Michelle all washed up. After, we're gonna towel dry her and apply her toner. Now to give Michelle that perfect silvery platinum blonde, I'm going to use Color Touch 7/89 and 10/81. This is going to deposit a little bit of that silvery color that we need for a platinum blonde, but it's not going to be too gray and overbearing. It's just going to be the perfect icy pearl color. After we let the toner sit for 20 minutes, I went back in and finished Michelle's angles and completed her haircut and gave her a beautiful blowout. And for the final result, we have a beautiful silvery pearl platinum blonde. I hope you guys enjoyed today's video, and if you like what you saw, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. If you have any questions at all, please be sure to leave them in the comments. Thank you for watching. Bye!